Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Ann Gregg with the Lewis Prize for Music, and I will just ask for a collective breath. And the reason is I live in Brooklyn, New York. If you saw the national news today, there was a shooting that impacted my community. And so that is why we had some technical difficulties at the start of this. So a collective breath would really be wonderful. I'll ask that of this, and I will ask it partly because I know if you are here in this webinar today, you're working with young people in your community where you would put them first and you would do anything you could to make sure that they are safe and okay. So thank you for that collective breath. We had hoped to share a video, but that video is on the Lewis Prize for Music website. And as registrants for this webinar, we will make sure that you get to see that video. What we really wanted to do today was have a conversation. And so if it's okay with you guys, we will let go of PowerPoints and just settle in. Christopher Thornton, thank you for nodding. Thank you so much for nodding, one of our beautiful panelists. We'll settle in and just have a conversation where we get to hear directly from some Lewis Prize for Music awardees. So really happy to have this conversation. At the end of this, there will be time for a Q&A. And if you ask questions that we don't quite get to, we will follow up and answer them via email or encourage you to call us and have those conversations directly. Happy to get started. Before I introduce our panelists today, I will just say a few things about the Lewis Prize to make sure that everyone has the same context. The Lewis Prize for Music is a new organization. We are in our 4th year that provides awards for organizations doing creative youth development work, working with young people through music, and that you're doing that work for the sake of systems change. We look to work in partnership with organizations all across the country. It is a national award, and awardees who receive the Lewis Prize for Music are awarded $500,000. The application is open now. You can find it on the website. There will be one other webinar after this on May 3rd. At 11 a.m. Pacific or 2 p.m. Eastern. And that webinar will, again, go back into the nuts and bolts of the application itself. So we offered that once already, and you can find that video online. If you missed it, no problem. Join us on May 3rd to understand the ins and outs of the application. Today, we want to understand the ins and outs of what it looks like to be an awardee by hearing from people themselves. And so it is with great pleasure that I am going to introduce my friends, my colleagues, and Lewis Prize for Music 2021 recipients, Beyond the Bars. Beyond the Bars is in Philadelphia, and I'm joined by co-founders Matthew Kerr and Christopher Thornton. Hi, guys.
And thank you.
Thank you so much. Wonderful to meet everybody.
Yeah,
Great to see you.
Well, we're Beyond the Bars. I'm Christopher Thornton, as Ann said. Matt and I are co-directors of this organization. And we won the Lewis Prize. And here we are. We've gone through about a year and some months of it transforming our lives and our organization and our community. And we're just excited to kind of share some of our journey and information with you all. So thank you for being here. And thank you, Ann, for that wonderful introduction. And also thank you, because Matt knows I hate PowerPoints. So this is like my dream. I'll turn it over to Matt.
Well, I actually brought my own PowerPoint, so no, I'm just no, I'm playing. But no, thank you so much, Chris. Thank you so much, Anne. I'm co-directors. My name is Matthew Kerr. I'm a co-director with Chris in Running Beyond the Bars. We're an organization that started out teaching youth who were incarcerated in jail, and we taught way too many talented young people who said that we were their first music program, and it kind of led us into a lot of work with trying to do systems change and directed by our youth in our community that we're excited to talk more about later. So we have a little video that kind of showcases it. The narrator's voice is very annoying, I must warn you. But if you can get through it, it kind of describes a little bit about what Beyond the Bars is doing kind of basically, over the last few years and with the support of Lewis Prize.
All right. We have two choices, and I'm just going to invite my colleague Shanika to let us know. Shanika, do we have the ability to see that video, or should we say a little bit more about Beyond the Bars and keep going?
We'll keep the video. One moment, please.
No problem.
I'm glad. It's really great. So I'm glad we're able to do that. While she's pulling that up, we have one poll question that I will launch. And as she's pulling that, we'd like to know, is this the first time you are considering applying for the Lewis Prize? You can answer that in real time, yes or no. Oh, numbers are coming in. Wonderful. Thank you for answering that. A few more answers. You can still answer the poll. That's great. All right, amazing. We see that 70%, basically 70% of the people here are applying for the first time. Wonderful. So happy to be with you today. And hopefully we'll get to know more about each other as we have this conversation and continue to get to know each other. All right, let's watch this great video.
Beyond the Bars is a student-driven and community-based music program that is dedicated to creating accessible musical spaces in Philadelphia. The organization is guided by the Student Steering Committee, a collective of amazing young leaders who are committed to making music more accessible for other youth. They created a student tech team that was dedicated to helping young people learn IT skills while refurbishing old Mac computers to make them accessible with recording softwares that would allow young people to express themselves. This initiative has taken place across the city with amazing young leaders throughout Philadelphia working to create more and more accessible spaces for other youth. Students in Beyond the Bars programming are not only artists, but also leaders in our community, dedicated to ensuring that all youth in our city have access to the resources that they deserve. The student tech team has refurbished over 150 computers, creating over 23 music labs throughout the city so that other young people may express themselves with music. These music labs have been built in trauma clinics, shelters, diversion, rec centers, after-school programs, and anywhere where young people are. These music labs generally consist of 6 Mac computers, MIDI keyboards, microphones, headphones, Logic recording software, and anything that a young person needs to be able to write and express their emotions through music. Here are a few examples of the over 23 music labs that we've built throughout the city. Of the music labs that we have built in the city, many have already been fully activated by the incredible youth in Philadelphia. Youth have used these labs to express themselves, build community, and grow into the leaders that they are. In these recording labs, our community-based teaching artists work with our talented young people as they grow their self-expression and self-efficacy skills to become not only talented artists, but strong leaders in our community. Through these recording labs, we are able to activate spaces for youth where they have previously felt disengaged from. Through these labs and programs, we have seen a substantial growth in our youth's self-perception. Our young people are realizing how talented they are, as well as the tools that they have at their disposal for expressing their emotions. For the work that our amazing young people do, they are both compensated and receive their own Mac computers with recording software so that they can continue on their musical journeys. Our student teacher program recruits youth throughout Philadelphia high schools to learn how to create positive and healthy spaces and support the next generation of young artists as they grow to be musicians. Youth in any Beyond the Bars program are then connected to the resources of our over 30 community-based partners. Any needs that youth have, we work to refer them to the proper organization that can best support them. By supporting Beyond the Bars, you are helping create accessible musical spaces where youth can grow and thrive to be the leaders that they were always meant to be.
Beautiful. Is it fun to see that video? You've seen it probably many times. Fun to see it again.
I think it just reminds me that we don't teach videography at this junction.
You do so many things, and that is why we are happy that you are an awardee. And I think to help people listening in, what was it like for Beyond the Bars to apply to the Lewis Prize for Music and to write that first letter of intent, that first application?
Yeah, definitely. No, thank you so much. So we first applied it was a COVID relief grant. And at the time, Beyond the Bars, we were predominantly, I think we would pay our teachers, but we were still a very small organization. We did a lot of work though. Like we were always kind of we had 30 people that would work with us, but no one full time. And we always kind of had a large impact, but a small budget. So we didn't even really want to apply for Lewis Prize at first because I'm like, all right, cool. I'm not looking forward to getting rejected, right? You're going to look at our budget and, even though you look at the impact, you won't really care about that. But you guys kind of encouraged us. You're like, no, please apply. Just let's see what you're doing. And we were able to get that grant, and it led to meeting Dan, meeting you, Ann, and meeting some of the amazing team at Lewis Prize. And when I talked with y'all over the summer, there's so many foundations that are out there, and there's plenty of foundations that are like, yeah, cool, it's nice to talk to you, but you don't really feel like they're authentically about the students. And I left that conversation, talking with you and Dan, and just being like, oh. Wait, they're all about all the same things we're about. They're about systems change. They're about student, youth leadership, right? And making sure that youth are guiding things. They're about community-based things. And we, I was just so excited to know that this organization existed. So but still was really excited. But I'm like, all right, this is a very large grant, and we're not going to get it, right, because of our budget. But you encouraged us to apply. You said no, please apply. Say all the things you're doing. Say everything that you guys are about. And you were, the whole Lewis Prize team was always accessible if there was any questions in applying or writing the grant. And same thing. When I was like, all right, I think we made it to the semifinals, and I'm like, just eliminate us. Stop getting my hopes up. Don't do this. And then when we made it to the finals, that was really cool, because when we got to do the site visit, which we'll get to, I'm sure, and talk about. But yeah, as far as the actual application itself and the writing, all the questions were great, because they really helped us kind of focus what our work is, and really take time to kind of make sure that we're not just haphazardly doing things, that we can really focus our work according to these things that we really care about.
That's great. And we have heard that from organizations applying, that just the process of answering the questions helps them think about their work in a different way. For everyone listening in, the Lewis Prize for Music team does not read the applications. There are readers from all over the country, including young people who are a big part of our adjudication process. So readers from all over the country, including young people, do read those applications. And yes, our team, as Matt said, is is happy to answer questions and give whatever guidance we can. So that's the role we play at the first application stage. Should you be chosen as a semifinalist and then as a finalist, there is a second part to the application process, which is a site visit and a more extensive RFP. And so, yeah, what was that part of the application process like for you guys too?
Well, the site visit, and I think just the whole process for us, and hopefully for most of you listening, will be a good process, a positive process. But we, for the site visit and stuff like that, it's not. I would say, I think all of you probably done grants, you've probably done site visits for whatever reason with anybody to come see your program, to come check it out. Just want to see what's going on. But this one was kind of a different type of site visit, and I think the Lewis Prize had outlined it in this way, but we also imagined it in this way that we really want to show, and our work already is kind of already embedded in connecting with community partners, community organizations, community leaders, and really, we teach music, to be frank. We do other stuff, but it's like we teach music, and we know that the kids in our city, the people in our city, the adults, people need more than music, right? People need all these things: housing, healthcare, mental health care, all these things, art, everything. And so, we're like, okay, well, we are already kind of working to do music, but we can work with all these other organizations and partners and community groups to actually, where they are doing and are able to offer people help in these other ways, we're able to kind of add and bring in this musical element. So for us, this kind of like idea of the site visit was a chance for us to say, look at all the people that we're working with to do the work that we're doing. And recognizing that we are a finite organization who, again, we're primarily teaching music, but we can do so much more work when we are working together with all these other organizations. So we take the site visit as a chance to show that and to kind of document that. Take the site visit as a chance to bring together about a lot of our youth and teachers, tons of our youth and teachers who have been, really the program, like as me and Matt are kind of co-directors or founders or whatever, what the culture is of the program and what the culture is of everything we have was built by the students and the teachers from doing and participating in our programs and building together. So to show those things, we just bring our teachers and our students together, the people actually, and including Matt and I, the people actually doing work and connecting with young people and the young people themselves, and kind of have that site visit be, it was almost for us, it was like a family reunion or a party. It was just like, wow, we have everybody together. This is amazing. We all love each other. We love our community. We love the work that we're doing. We have youth, again, we have people's parents, we have teachers, we have community members and community organizations who we're working with that are able to kind of say, like, oh, this is really happening, what we're doing here. And you're able
That's
to
beautiful.
show having them. So sorry, I'm going on.
No, it's okay. It's okay. And I think that's a really good point that, we wish we could do site visits with everyone. But how do you bring that kind of day in the life what does it feel like to be a part of your organizations? We do ask the leaders of organizations to write this first application, but how can you write it in a way that we really understand what it would be like to be present with you on a daily basis? There are 5 key parts of the application, and would just love to touch on them from your experience of how Beyond the Bars works on a daily basis. And the first is the big idea. At the end of the day, if you could do nothing else, what's your North Star? What drives your work? What's the intention behind it? And what was that big idea? What is that for you guys? And how do you think about that?
Definitely. What was I gonna say? So for us, it kind of goes back to how we started. We were a music program for youth who were incarcerated, right? That was like our beginning. And during that time, we taught, way too many talented young people who said, how much they had wished they had a music program before, but also how much trauma that they've been exposed to, right? And that trauma looked in a number of different ways, whether it be homelessness, foster care, divestment. But I mean, all of it kind of goes back to divestment, right? So kind of the North Star, the big idea is that we want to combat, systemic problems like divestment and all of these different things that we just said, with systemic solutions, right? We want it to be using music as a means of kind of engaging with our community, but then also, as Chris said before, partnering with all these great organizations, using music as a means of engaging with young people, building up their self-efficacy, their self-esteem, their belief in themselves, their self-expression, but then also connecting them with all of these different resources that are in our community that our young people need. So probably, like I said, our big idea is combating divestment, and systemic problems need systemic solutions.
Amazing. And related to that, we do focus on systems change, seeing things through the eyes of young people and youth leadership. I'm going to hold on that. But since you already started moving into systemic change and systems change, for everyone, want to just say two things before I turn it back to Matt and Chris. One is that the Lewis Prize for Music recognizes that systems change includes philanthropy. And so we know that we have a part in systems change, and we are looking at that ourselves, and in partnership with organizations. And that systems change takes a lot of time. There is a more formal definition of how we define systems change on our website and as a part of the application. But Matt and Chris, what does systems change mean to be on the bars?
I mean, so to us, it really, we have the system we have right here. Everybody sees what's going on with it. I don't need to say much more. To us, it means, working together. And working with other organizations. We really, from, again, our big idea, we want to see our people in our community have what they need in all of the ways that they need. So there's no one organization, there's no one philanthropist who's going to fix all of these problems in any way. But we know that together, working together with other organizations, with community members, with young people themselves, with the actual people who are dealing with these issues that your organization is kind of working to face, that's how we will get actual change. And from actually creating and working to create systems and to plug into systems that already exist, some of them, but also to create like new networks and systems. And we just really kind of imagine this work as that we're just kind of building this like tapestry with other organizations and community members, everybody. And this tapestry, we're just one thread. We do our one little thing, we do some other stuff, but that tapestry is what we were building, and that is going to create the change that we actually want to see. Because we can see that the system itself right now is not necessarily giving people what they need in so many different ways. So it's just really about creating and partnering and working with other people, and not in just like a corporate, like, whoa, we're partnering. Like really sitting down with people, talking to people, how can we best work together to meet the needs of our community?
Yeah, that was beautifully said. I don't really have much to add other than, when we look at the systems that we're up against in our communities, right, or that are oppressing our communities, they're very intentional, right? They've been created over hundreds of years, and they're very large and they're intentional, right? So when we try to create different systems, we need to be just as intentional and try to make something as large, right? And as Chris said, no one organization can do it. And I think in the nonprofit world, we're kind of set up to be individualistic and not really ever affect massive change, because we're trying to compete for our own resources. We're trying to say, are things the only thing that works? And even though, each component is not enough, right? But we want to create as deeply as intentional of a thing for our young people so that they have a system that supports them as opposed to as putting them down.
Thank you for saying that, and just to quote you back, that young people have a system that supports them. And I know one of the things in the application centers around youth leadership. And I know, Matt and Chris, I've heard you talk about how young people have leadership examples and opportunities in Beyond the Bars, and how it's kind of the ethos of the organization. Could you talk a little bit more about youth leadership at Beyond the Bars?
Absolutely. But yeah, so youth leadership has always kind of been, like from the very beginning, Beyond the Bars has been, we always said, student driven and community based. When we first not stopped teaching in jail, but we were only teaching in jail. When we branched out to run in the community, it was because of our youth, right? Our youth said, yo, we need to have these music labs. out in the community. When we were in the community, things were going good. It's like, hey, this is good. We have this spot in West Philly, but it's like, why aren't there all these music labs, in other spaces as well? So what we have is we have a student steering committee that, like I said in the video, kind of guides the work of that we do. And then there's other two, like they kind of like say, hey, the org should be doing this, the org should be doing that, right? And then in addition, there's two other major, components. We have the student teacher program, where basically our young people, they get trained up to become, student teachers. And then they go into rec centers, they go into programs, they go into spaces throughout the city, and then they teach other youth. And then those music labs that were built, as we kind of talked about, we have a student tech team where we have amazing young people like Dan that you saw in the video, refurbish computers, fix up computers, and then build out music labs with Chris for other young people to be making music in. So basically, because of youth in Philadelphia, there's 26 music labs that now exist, and then there's right now we're about to graduate. We're working with our second cohort of student teachers who are then all throughout the city supporting middle schoolers and the next generation of musicians. So I mean, everything that we try to do, like as Chris said, the culture beyond the bars, like when you come in, it's very warm. That's not because of me. That's not, because of it's because of our students, and our students build that culture that they bring other young people into.
Yeah, and I guess I would just add, it's from these kind of systems. I don't want to say that word too many times in this, but these systems that Matt just kind of referred to, but also just like in the micro, kind of level, like when young people come into our programs, that class on that day and that class through time, we do what young people want to do, right? If they want to learn some song or some kind of music or something, then we're going to focus on that as much as possible with the group and with individual young people. And that, just again, that's part of setting a system up that supports young people, is them actually having choice in how they get to engage with the system and navigate that system in ways that will be beneficial to them, and maybe some ways they go down, it's not beneficial, but they get to make that choice and find out and have that experience. And, I think for us, having that baked in has led to just this beautiful youth community that, they know we have their backs, and, there it is.
Yeah, having their backs. And there's another awardee from San Diego, David's Heart Foundation, where their leader, Brandon, always says, we walk in the mud together. We walk in the mud. And that's what I hear you saying too, that the ideas of what the organization is and continues to be come from young people. We have two other aspects of the application I'd like us to touch on before we move into Q&A. So for everyone here, if questions are starting to bubble, you can put them in the Q&A section of the webinar format, and we will do our best to answer as many as possible. So that's coming up soon. And as I said, there are two other parts of the application. One is racial equity and inclusion, and really looking at how racial equity is embedded in your organization and is a part of everything you do. Could you guys talk about what that looks like? And the last thing we'll talk about is partnerships. So if you want to go from one to the other or pause, I leave that up to you.
Yeah, so this is one, again, I think you're all seeing our stuff is real baked in, all these ideas from the beginning for us, and how we imagine the organization running. But, it goes down to, again, I think this student-driven thing is a big part of that, to actually, if the students that you're working with, right, you want them to be deciding what's going on, and their families and their experiences to be guiding what's going on. And not just from you meet them and you see and then you decide, you actually really want them to be telling you what is going on. So for us, that's been from the beginning what we're doing. We're in Philadelphia. We're primarily working with Black and Brown people, poor people, people, again, affected by this massive systemic divestment. And so for that, what that means for us is that's who our students are. That's who our teachers kind of come from, is that kind of community space. And if they are teachers, like even say myself, I'm not necessarily from Philadelphia, but I am coming in and I was working in this community and working to work with this community and to build community in this community this whole time that I've been kind of out here. And so we're trying to find people, if they're not specifically from this community, that are really, again, as Brandon said, in the mud, working with the community. So, as far as, our whole plan right here is to train up so many of our students to not replace the adult teachers, but to become the teachers in the program and to become the people leading it, to become the people sitting on this webinar talking to you, right? And not for it to be Matt and I or somebody else. So really just baking that in and kind of sailing on that from the bottom to the top and just moving in that way.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I would also just like add that, I mean, to Chris's point, like I always say, like, the community knows what the community needs, and the community is full of the amazing leaders to do it. It always comes down to the resources, right? So for us, we always talk about like making sure that from its very beginning that our structure had all of the platforms that our community would be like not just guiding, but like would be running the show. As Chris said, like making sure that our teachers, making sure that our board, making sure that as many different platforms for leadership from our community, from our youth, from everywhere, that like I said, the community, like any org that is in the community should be of the community, right? It shouldn't be like serving the community; it should be of the community. So just making sure that that's kind of baked in, and also always baking in like intersectionality, that like we are perpetually growing, and when your stuff is student centric, young people are incredible, right? Young people, when we had a session on Saturday, and students got started, it's like, all right, let's make sure everyone's pronouns are listed, and the students were doing that, and I'm like, oh, killing it, but just making sure that like as an org that we're never a finished product when it comes to racial equity, right? Like oppression today will look different tomorrow, right? And making sure that when you're rooted in intersectionality and you're always ready to do that growth.
Yeah, and I think just the final additional thing I think too for us that has been important in that is just it's not even just about the youth or whoever that you're working with in that way, your clients. It's about how are we setting up this organization to pay the people a fair, reasonable, real wage to do this work and to not exploit our community or the community that we're trying to work with to do this work, right? So that's really something that we're very serious about and thinking about from the top. I know all of us have worked at or seen different nonprofits or even school systems or whatever you want to call it, just kind of exploiting people that really care about the community because they are members of the community and then not actually compensating them fairly or appropriately. So that for us is like a big part of that equity and inclusion element.
And thanks to Lewis Prize for helping us do that.
Yes.
Well, it's wonderful to be in partnership with you and to see where you are coming from and to hear about your big idea and your vision and how you're so thoughtful about planning for the future and recognizing what's really important to the community. We will move into Q&A for the last 10-15 minutes of this webinar. And to get us going, I know there was one question about what is the time frame of the award and how is the award distributed? And while people are asking other questions, it is a $500,000 award that is distributed across 3 to 5 years. And we really take the lead of organizations in knowing what the best distribution is for organizations to be able to work toward that big idea, to be able to grow sustainably, to be able to leverage funding and make sure that the organization remains healthy over time. And so while people are asking questions, now that you guys have received the $500,000 award, what does that mean for Beyond the Bars and what does that look like today?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, beyond the funding was nothing short of transformational, right? I always said, like, if we didn't get Lewis Prize, we were still gonna be doing our thing. Like, no matter what, we were still gonna be running a bunch of programs, still gonna be up in our deep in our community, doing all of our stuff. But the ways, before the Lewis Prize, I think we had 8 music labs or something like that. Now we have 26, right? Chris and I were both able to go full time, and we were able to increase the teacher wages. We were able to do so many things to make our system more sustainable, more equitable. I mean, that key word, sustainable, right? And then it allowed us to really, those kind of pie in the sky systems change ideas that we believed in. It allowed us to really get a lot more traction on it, and it's been super transformational.
Amazing. There's another question. What other supports do awardees receive? And I will just say from our perspective and then turn it to you guys to see what your perspective is. We really look to be partners. And so that means that we look for visibility opportunities in bringing awareness of the great work that awardees are doing. We look to be thought partners. And so my colleague, Tracy Slater-Rigaud, and I are a part of the field learning team, where our goal is to just ask, how's it going? And come together sometimes around strategic planning or just advice or relationship mapping, things that come from awardees. And we also look to build community across awardees. So there are some opportunities to come together as a cohort of awardees, or now we have 11 organizations who have been awarded. So opportunities for people to come together across awarding years. Other things from your perspective, guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think and everything Ann said, plus, in additional, just this community thing is very big for me, Matt and I, and our organization. Just like, and I encourage y'all, however, if you can, to talk to your other people who are in this meeting, and you can hit me and Matt up even, or Beyond the Bars if you would like to talk more. But it has connected us because Lewis Prize has been very intentional and serious about having awardees from past years, from the current year, maybe from the future, whatever you want to say, to actually meet and to collaborate. And that has been, for us, I can't say it's not the same as $500,000, okay, but it's pretty deep in how much it's kind of enabled us to think larger, to get ideas from other people, to see what other organizations are doing, to see that, wait, like we felt like we were kind of in a little vacuum. There's like 2 other organizations doing what we do in Philadelphia, but as far as being connected to national organizations and organizations in other cities and other communities specifically, and other communities to link our youth up to, we really didn't know where we were. And now we're connected to so many people all over the country, right? And all over in different cities and places. And it's just like incredible to now be connected, and we can work and bounce ideas off each other, talk about our struggles, what's going good, what's going on with this pandemic and all these things. And that's just been wonderful, so that real community thing is just, I can't stress that enough.
Yeah, I just completely agree. Like, we were trying to figure out a curriculum component for like how to work with songwriting, and I'm like, oh, who's a great person? Me and Chris were talking. I was like, what about Brandon from David Harper's Foundation? That's why when you said it, we reached out within our like network of the Lewis Prize awardees, and I ended up having like a 2-hour conversation with that day, and I took like 5 pages of notes, and we totally reshaped our curriculum because of his like guidance, right? We talked with De La Shea at Mosaic, and we come away with once again like 10 pages of notes, like, okay, here's 20 different things we can do. The amount of what's so exciting is, as Chris said, that like the community is like so full of everyone that's rooted in the most beautiful things as far as like youth leadership, work, everything that we're about, systems change. So when someone says an idea, like it's always brilliant. So I couldn't be more grateful for that community.
Thank you for that. There are 3 sort of eligibility questions that I will answer very briefly, but really encourage you to check out the website and the information there, attend the application webinar that's happening on May 3rd, or reach out to our team with specific questions. Very quickly, are there yearly reporting requirements? And the answer is yes. There is a question about short-term projects and eligibility. One thing I'll say is the goal of this award is really for organizational work. Don't think about the one workshop or the one program with young people. Really, what is the commitment to young people in your community on a daily basis? This is the intention behind it, and that is why summer programs are not eligible. It's really meant to be what's happening over time and in a sustained way with young people. And then the third question is about video. And this is a good point. We didn't touch on this, but people wanted to know, Matt and Chris, in preparing the video for the application, did you create something special for the application? Did you have things? A little bit of just what that was like to choose video.
Once again, I'm really grateful y'all don't grade us as videographers, but yeah, what I did is, once again, I kind of viewed it similar to the the site visit, in that I tried to get some interviews from our students, from our community partners, some videos of live performances, and I just kind of spliced it all together. It did not look cool, but once again, we're not a videography program. But yeah, once again, we kind of took it as that approach. We want to showcase, what makes our org, right? Our partners, our students, our music. So.
Amazing. The other eligibility question, I knew there were three. Is this open to 501c3s or fiscal sponsored organization? And the answer is both. You can have a fiscal sponsor or you can be a 501c3 yourself. Matt and Chris, someone wants to know if, really quickly, just because of the follow-up on the video. Yes, there is a video or audio example required with the application. And the goal, again, is the best way that we get to see what's going on with young people. So as Matt said, it's not about the video quality as much as it is the quality in the video. So not the video quality, but the quality in the video. Question for you guys. What was the most challenging part of the application process and why? What was challenging about the process?
Well, I think, and me and Matt, how to phrase this, we talked about this kind of concept, but most grants, I mean, even this grant, you definitely want to win. Obviously, you're not applying to lose, but it's like, it's kind of like, well, how can we write this grant to fit what these guys are saying, what they want? That's the issue you need to go through kind of every time. For this one, the challenging thing was like, well, you should really be trying to say what you're actually doing. And I think it was hard for us to realize like, oh, this is, in quotes, a real funder who's really serious about funding the work that's actually happening and not having people make up some work that they're not doing and then funding that, right? So really us kind of realizing like, all right, we really need to express what we're actually doing in a good way, of course, in positive language and stuff like that. But to really recognize that this application for us in this award for that year, it's like, as Matt said, we actually didn't really expect to get it, necessarily based on the scale of our organization and what was going on. But it was like, let's be honest about what we're doing and be clear about what we're doing. And then it's kind of like, again, and this is kind of not a difficulty, but it is. It's like then realizing, okay, these people on this other side, the Lewis Prize and the people reading, they're really looking for that and looking for you and for you and I from our standpoints to be giving the solutions, right? So they're not kind of coming in like, we're going to give all this money to do specific thing other than this kind of system change thing. And, I guess, for us, that was, so to say, easy because it was already baked into what we're doing, but still it's just like, we had to show what we were actually doing and kind of have faith that that would be taken. And then now here we are able to build from there. And that was kind of a roundabout answer, but.
No, that was great, man. That was great. I would also add just the site visit. I would say probably, I agree with everything that Chris just said. But I think the site visit, it was one of those things that was a lot of work to put together, but then was a beautiful thing and was like something that was like a memorable night that I'll never forget. And I'm like super grateful it happened. But it's one of those things that, yeah, I would say that's probably the most work in the whole operation. Because, but once again, it's worth it. So, if you get selected to that round, I would definitely get to work on reaching out to your partners, reaching out to your students, because it is a lot of like organizing to bring it all together on one day. But once again, worth it, and it's like an incredible life memory then.
And again, for this stage, maybe imagining a site visit and who are those partners that you would bring in to the table, to meet us and at the table. It's just a great way to think about what information to include when you're thinking about saying that in a letter of intent in an application. Oh, I could talk to you guys all day. But I think we have to close, which is so sad. Hopefully everyone heard what Chris was saying about what is the language that really is the language you use every day, and how can you be as authentic as possible? That's what we're looking for. A few things before Shanika takes us out with video. We have some music that we're going to play at the end. This is our application timeline. So to remind people, the application is open now through June 3rd. It does close at 5 p.m. Pacific. And if our application process team were here, they would remind us that that last 20 minutes to an hour of the deadline is often very flooded through the accepted portal. So if you can get it in a little bit earlier than the deadline, you'll have a better process on your technical end. So it is open now through June, and you can see the rest of the processes as we talked about today written here as well. I just want to say a final thank you to everyone for being here today. Hopefully this was helpful to you. And Matt and Chris, special thanks to you for being here. And special thanks to my colleagues who are here, Shanika and Alexis and Tracy and DeLuge. You don't see them all on camera, but there's a lot of Lewis Prize support here. So thanks for being here as well. Matt and Chris, I'm going to give you the final words. Any last thoughts that you have just to send people on their way? And then if one of you could intro the final video, that would be great too. So last thoughts and intro the video that'll take us out.
I'll let Matt give the intro. My last thought is just, hey, just keep doing the work that you're doing and keep building for the community. And, we think that's the best way from the ground and from the top to work and to build and to have the change that we need. So just please keep doing that. If you don't get the prize this year, there's other organizations that have not gotten it and now they got it. So just like keep doing the work that you're doing. If you and your community knows that work is important, you got to do it and make it happen. However you guys can make it happen. And we're here for you, and the Lewis Prize is here for you also.
Yeah, I mean, that was perfect. Yeah, I thank you so much for the work that y'all are doing. I know it's incredible, and exactly, like, if you want to reach out to Chris or I in the meantime in any ways to collaborate, once again, like, the whole networking bit doesn't have to be just afterwards. And yeah, thank you so much. So the video you will about to see is, we have this thing called a Live at the Library, where basically our students, they do a performance at the Philadelphia Free Library, and then there'll be a Philadelphia band or artist that will also play, and then there will be a community leader and activist who will also speak on something. So this song that you're about to hear is a song called Strands by a student band called Retro Imperfections, and it was the vocals are written by the very, very talented Zadia Holness. And most of the students in this band you're about to see are now teachers, which is cool. So it's this was their senior year, and now most of them are teaching. I think tomorrow I'm teaching with the keyboard player, and Chris teaches with a kill later today. So yeah, look, here's the video.
Need a little moisture, shea moisture for the culture. Need a little moisture, shea moisture for the band too. And if I can't fix my strengths, then you can too. Then you can too. Then you can too. Strands of my life is breaking off. Close friends are breaking off. Bad memories knotted into a ball. I tried to rip it off, but then I broke it off. But then I broke it off. Need a little moisture, shea moisture for the culture. Need a little moisture, shea moisture for the band too. And if I can't fix my strengths, then you can too. Then you can too. Then you can too. Need a little moisture, shea moisture for the culture. Need a little moisture, shea moisture for the band too. And if I can't fix my strengths, then you can too. Then you can too. Then you can too. Need a little need a little
Thanks, everybody, for coming. Have a great day. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Have a great
Matt,
one. Oh, what's
You
up?
guys, if panelists, if you guys want to hang just for a moment, you can hang here for 1 minute.
Oh, we're hanging there.
Thanks for the shout out in the chat. Thank you, guys.
You.
Thank you so
Have
much.
a great day too. Bye.
I think they should win. I'm just saying.
Thanks, Kimberlyn.
Timberland 2. 2 winners. All right. Who's the third? Let's play.
All right.